It's just so complex, Andrew. It's that simple. What we've got, remember, is an award system that no one else in the world has. So we've got the Fair Work Act. Now that's 960 sections, 250,000 words to start with. Then we've got 122 awards that sit underneath that are very long and very complex as well. Many businesses have staff working under multiple awards, not just one award. Even small businesses, restaurants and so on, can have people under multiple awards. This system is more complex than any other system in the world. You know, we've got these awards that no one else has. New Zealand has to some extent, but they deregulated their labour market quite significantly a number of years ago. So we're on our own here. We have a very, very complex system. Now, if all of those big businesses can't get it right, how are the 99% of businesses that fit in the small to medium business category, how are they supposed to get this right? It's really, really hard, and what we need is appropriate public policy in this space. Let's make it easy to pay people properly, and then they will be paid properly. It's that simple.
Well, I'd go even further, Kate. I'd say that I agree with you that most small businesses wouldn't have a clue unless they've got some sort of accountancy major and a couple of helpers. But what about all the workers? I mean, the vast majority of the employees of the companies I've listed, they didn't realise they were being underpaid either, and it was in their best interest to note. Now, you say we need reform. What would be a simpler, easier, no excuses kind of system?
Look, I think what we've got to do is understand that we are unique in having an award system. So we've got to simplify that or get rid of it, as the case may be. We don't want people to have fewer terms and conditions. That's not the point here. It's not about screwing the workers. It's about quite the opposite, is having a system that allows businesses, both small and large, to pay people what they're supposed to be paid and not end up in this absolute debacle where, as one of the major accounting firms was telling me the other day, they're doing lots of audits of the big end of town, and they were saying, look, they struggle to find anyone who hasn't done something wrong in this space. The system is so complex.
Okay, but what about, Kate, what about my many left-wing viewers who would say, Kate Carnell, that's all very well, but I never hear of a company overpaying workers. That proves evil intent.
Not at all, because lots of people overpay. The fact is it's not illegal to overpay, so we don't get the reports of people overpaying. In fact, the Fair Work Ombudsman Commission looked at businesses a little while ago and determined that the vast percentage of small businesses were paying a bit over the odds, with the view that maybe if they paid above the award, they'd be okay because they wouldn't get on the wrong side of this complex system. So the issue is, when an audit happens, you don't get reports of people who are overpaid. Lots of people are paid above award. The fact is, it's not legal to pay people below the award, so that's what gets reported. Look, you know, just good public policy, what is it? It's policy that the people who are supposed to implement it can do so in a reasonable, in a simple fashion that gets it right the majority of times. Look, Andrew, the 5% of businesses who are trying to screw their employees deserve all they get. The fact is 95% of businesses are trying to do the right thing by their employees. We've got to make it easier for them to do so.
And also cheaper, Kate. I mean, you can't expect all these smaller companies that don't have the human resources teams like a company like Coles or Woolworths or Qantas would have. They've got to be able to figure it out without having to employ, at vast expense, a lot of accountants just and lawyers just to double check it all for them. But what about the government's plan? They say, well, you just heard them, no, more punishment. We're going to jail people, jail the worst offenders. We might have signs in the window, I was an underpayer, all that kind of stuff. Will that do any good?
Look, I think it'll do the opposite. Look, if people are doing the wrong thing, it's clear they're doing the wrong thing, throw the book at them. But the vast percentage of mistakes are done because the system is so complex. And look, if we just have a look at the George Calombaris scenario.
Please.
Yep, he was victimised. Yes, he's gone out of business, and over 100 people have lost their jobs. Now, I think we've got to remember that if we put signs up in people's businesses saying this was a bad business, who do we think is really going to suffer? It's going to be the employees who lose their jobs because the business goes broke. So,
Kate, I want to get on exactly that point. You are so correct. 400 people out of work because of the way George Calombaris was not just, you know, he made a mistake. He made a mistake and he fessed up to it and he paid it back. But the way he was vilified and his businesses named and shamed. Because I want to ask you about that. Here is how the union involved in discovering this latest underpayment by Coles, which is a big supermarket giant, here is how he reacted today, which I thought, you know, fairly understanding. Here he is.
I do want to acknowledge that Coles has constructively engaged the SDA in this payroll audit. They've acknowledged that they have a problem and they are going to pay those employees in full.
Okay, that's good. Here's the contrast, Kate, which you sort of referred to earlier. Here's how the president of the ACTU, our peak union body, here's how she reacted when George Calombaris is just running a small or medium business, is not an accountant. He self-reported that his company had also underpaid workers. Have a listen.
George Calombaris, the celebrity chef that stole $8 million from the people who do the hard work in his restaurants by not paying them what they were legally entitled to. And not only did he underpay those workers, steal their legal entitlements and money, at the same time as he was doing that, he was out there as the poster boy for the employers that were campaigning to cut penalty rates to workers in that industry. Shameless behaviour.
Shameless, is a thief, is a this, is a that. How come the mega bosses don't get this sort of boycott and shaming thing, but George Calombaris, small business, run out of town on a rail?
Andrew, it's because Woolworths joins most of their staff, all their permanent staff, up to the union, so it's a heavily unionised business, as is, you know, Coles and Woolworths are both in that space, and I imagine that George Calombaris might not have been in that space. But look, I think we've got to focus on the hundreds of people who lost their jobs as a result of that business going broke. And look, none of us want that. What we want is people to be paid properly, paid on time, their superannuation paid. How do we do that? We have a system that is simpler to follow. Yes, we throw the book at the very small number of people trying to do the right thing and ensure that the rest of business is supported in doing the right thing. That's what we've got to do here. You know, we've just got audits happening all over this country at the moment. The big accountancy firms and others are making $1 squillion out of this.
They're making a mozza. They're making a mozza, and the small business people are getting in the neck and living in fear about whether their small business is now going to go under. But Kate Carnell, that was good sense, which means guaranteed no politician is going to do it. But thank you so much indeed for speaking up for it. Appreciate it.